Okay, please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see.
I can see.
Okay, thank you very much. So in the previous session, we created this Power App in which we tested a few extra controls. Let's take a quick look on that. All right, here it is the control we tested, a gallery control, and also it is quick app by using the auto generate feature. Actually start from data feature that help us to create this quick Power App with some predefined screens like the browse screen, which the only thing it has is a gallery, and a couple other screens for the data input and read of a single item. Okay, so in order to finish the basics of Power Apps, the next thing we are going to test is the form like this for data submission. There are many other things or many options, sorry, in Power Apps to create forms, not only the form control, but for simplicity, we are going to use the control called forms. And we can find it here in the menu, insert, in this category, forms. Let me first add a new screen. So let's click here and hit blank. There it is. I'm going to rename this screen. Screen, right? Okay, but if you remember from the previous sessions, we can add text boxes like this and other data input from here, maybe a drop down and buttons. So basically, we can create a form manually, field by field, and set up the appearance, the position, and any rule we need. However, Power Apps has this control, which is going to generate the form for us, giving us some default functionality, which might be very handy. And it is good to start, but when you are building complex apps, this form is going to be a limitation instead of an advantage. The reason we know it is good for start is basically because it's the same element that is used for the auto-generated Power App. Remember that we didn't add this screen, it was added automatically by Power Apps, and they use a form control to render all of these elements. So let's do the same. I'm going to choose edit. In this time, I'm not going to use display because I want to show you a way about setting this edit form in read mode. So we basically do the two things with a single form, read and edit data. Okay, so I have added the form here. Similar as the gallery, you need to connect to a data source. If you don't remember, let's take another look on the gallery. If you click on the gallery, you can see that here in the items property is connected with the data source events. Also, we can see that here on the properties, it says literally data source, events there. Okay, so let's take a look on the form. It has a property with the same name here on the right panel, and we can do it from here, or we can do it from the property in the formula bar by selecting the property data source. Okay, it's just keep in mind that this is different. In gallery, it's called items, and for the forms, it's called data source. So let's type events. And now it is connected. Next thing is which fields are we going to show? For the form control, we can add fields by doing it from here in the right panel, properties panel, and clicking on edit fields. So let's do that. And now we need to click here where it says add field. Okay, so let's look for the most important fields of the event. Title, yeah, title is one. Another one should be start date, start time. Okay. End time. What other thing is going to be important? Maybe category. Attendees, definitely. Let's add category first. Going to collapse to see that easier. Okay, so description, yeah, why not? Event type, I think we created this one, but I don't remember. Let's see. Okay. Level. Ticket price, total attendees. And actually the attendees here. Okay, let's see if we have enough fields. I'm going to compare with the fields we put in the galleries control. And so here is the title, start time, end time. Okay, this is a calculated field. Okay, so no problem. Level, price, total. Then this is a calculation. Okay. I think we have more than we need. So probably event type and category is not useful for this case because we are already doing something with the level. I'm going to click run to see what are the values of each. Oh, take a look at this. I click run and it says there is no item to display. Why is that? Because another action you need to do with forms is to specify from where to get an existing item or initialize as a new form. So there is two things to do. Initialize the form and telling from where to get an existing item. Let's do that first. So here, by selecting the form, I'm going to open the item property here. Now, I need to write here what's the source for the current item. What I'm going to do is to say, hey, I want that you get the selected item from gallery events. So I'm going to write gallery events dot selected There it is. Now I have an item selected. Okay, so let's hit play again and take a look here. Category. I'm going to get rid of this one. All level. Okay, I'm going to keep level as a dropdown we're going to use for testing and get rid of category and event type. It's too many fields already. So by category and event type. Also, I want to put the description in a bigger area. So let's see if we can pull this like that. Yeah. Did you notice that thing with the size? Is not allowing me to resize this to a middle or in the middle of another field. It's like if you're familiar with HTML, it's like the TD or the cells of a table. You can only put it to the size of 1 cell, 2 cells, or 3 cells, depending on how many cells or columns you have in your form. But is not allowing something like half of the field above. That's not allowing me to do it. And those are some of the limitations with forms. Forms are very good to get things working really quickly, but are not that useful when you need higher customizations. Okay, so let's see here what I was going to do. Okay. There is another thing that I want to show you. Here is showing three columns for this form. You can change it here in the properties. I'm going to choose 2. You can see that it has not been rearranged. And I can choose 1. I think this is the one that I like better. The 2 columns format. And I'm going to make this bigger. This 1, 2. Okay, another thing to modify is the size of description. I want this to be multiline. So by selecting the text box, I'm going to modify that here. Okay, and there is one thing when you're customizing fields in a form. It organizes the sections inside data card, which are the blocks that you can resize. A data card contains multiple controls, like a label for the field name and the control for the input. So you can see here, this is a label, this is a control for the input, and also it has some hidden controls in the data card, for example, to show errors or other things. Let's take a look on those data cards to see how they look in the tree view. So I'm going to scroll down. Let's collapse this thing. Okay. So here are the data cards. For example, I'm in the description data card. You can see it has 4 controls inside. This one is the label for the field name. This one is the text box, and here are some hidden controls that work for. This one is for showing an error message, and this one is in case the field is required, it will show an asterisk. Well, actually, you can see that asterisk here in the title and the dates. Okay, so what is going on? Why it has a lock here? Well, it turns out that if you want to do some modifications, you need to unlock the data card. And in order to do that, first of all, you need to select the data card. Then here in advanced, click in unlock. And now it is unlocked. So let's see if we have additional things for the text box inside. Okay, so I was in the data card. I had selected the data card. Now I'm selecting the text box inside and clicking here in the properties. So this out, there it is. For some reason the scroll bar is not allowing me to go down, but this is what I wanted to show you. The mode here on the bottom, it says mode single line. I'm going to switch that to multi-line. The only thing this is going to change is how to handle the text inside the text box, but the size you need to do it manually. Okay, so let me show you what changes when you hit there. Let's go to the property default, which is going to be the text that it has. And right now it has this formula, parent default. The parent is the control that contains this text box. In this case, the parent of this text box is the data card. So if you notice, it says parent.default. It means the default property from the parent. So let's select the data card and navigate to the default property. And there it is. This item.description is going to get the values from the SharePoint column description. Okay, but for now, I'm going to manually put some text there between double quotes. This is a random text.
Isaac,
Yes?
is this possible not use data card?
When you use forms like here, the data cards are added by default. So every field is contained with a data card with this control, but it's only when you use this control. That's the reason I was explaining at the beginning, that we can create a form from scratch by using the controls, adding them manually one by one, the text boxes and the buttons. So that approach will give you more freedom with the interface. This form control is good when you want to get quick results and don't want to struggle with field validations or connecting field by field with the data source, because this form is already going to help you to handle the update, the reading, the creation of new items. You know, the basic CRUD operations, and you didn't have to configure these fields. Imagine you're creating this from scratch in HTML. You need to put a lot of rules to this and tell, hey, this field is for that column in the data source. And check if it's mandatory or validate if it's a date, and a lot of things you need to configure. But the form control is already doing all of that for you. Yes, we had to add the fields one by one here with the properties control here, but just by doing this very simple action, it added this object with a lot of functionality connected with a specific column in SharePoint or the data source you have, adding the label of the field name, configuring the rules for errors and other stuff. So it's very, very good to begin or develop apps that you need to do very quickly. And there are, even in complex apps, there are scenarios where when using this type of control is going to be very useful. You will notice that with experience is something that you will get more sensitive and say, this problem requires to be solved with a form, or this problem requires to be solved with building the interface from scratch. And what we were talking here. Okay, yes, the text. So let me add more text here. Okay, do you see how this is arranged here in the text box? If I switch this to, okay, it went down. Okay, I will switch this to single line. Can you see what is going on? Even that I have this control expanded or bigger, it still put everything in a single line and you cannot read it. So if you type here, it will have this effect or this behavior. So not very nice for a multi-line field, of course. So that's why we use the property or the mode multi-line here, and it fixes the problem. Okay, so let's now fix this text and set it as it was before. I'm going to delete all of that, and the value was this item dot description. If you remember from the previous session, we are using the object this item because is a variable that basically means the item selected on this control, similar to what happened with the gallery. If we return to the gallery and select any of these fields, you will see that all the properties are obtained from this item object, which basically means the current row or the specific row where you are. And in forms is similar. Of course, it's going to be the same item for all the fields here because it's a form for one item, but still you need to refer to this property when you need to extract some data for the current item. Okay, so you have seen how this works. You have seen how to unlock the data cards, modify them a little bit. Let's see how we save data to SharePoint. All we need to do is to add a button. And instead of adding a normal button like this, I'm going to use an icon. So let's go to open here. Okay, I need to set a formula in this icon to tell, hey, submit the form below, but I need to use the form name. So a good reason to rename this control. Let's call this event form. Okay. Now let's put a formula here. By the way, if you remember, with the buttons or icons, there is a property called onSelect, which basically means that when you do a click over the object. So once that I'm here, I'm going to use a formula called submit form. And the parameter it requires is the form object. If you had more than one form, you will see the options here to select an existing form. But I just have one, so I'm going to select that one and then close the parentheses. Okay, so now that formula looks good enough for now. And let's see what other thing we could do. Let's add another icon to close this thing and return to the previous screen. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is use the formula navigate. I think we saw the navigate before, didn't we? I thought we did the navigate, but no problem. Okay, so what is navigate? Navigate is a formula that will allow us to move to another screen. And as you can see, it is suggesting to choose from one of these objects, which are all the screens that exist in my app. I want to return to the events screen. So close the parentheses. Okay, I have the submit and I have the close. Let's hit play. If I modify this, I should be able to save data to SharePoint. This is a test description. Modify it. Let's change the date. And let's hit save. One important thing, we didn't set any action after the submit. That's why the form is not closing. So we need to configure what to do after hitting the save. For now, I'm going to go back manually and click here in the X mark. And you can see at the top that the data has been modified. It doesn't look that good, but here it says modified. Also, it has the new date. And unfortunately, we cannot see the description. Another problem is that we don't have right now a selection or a way to select this and go to the next screen. Many things to solve. So let's go back one by one. First, let's fix this title that doesn't look good. Okay. The next thing that I want is a button here to go to the next screen. So I'm going to select the first row and then click on icons and select any of these. You can use whatever you want, but many people, a lot of people use this one. Okay, this one has a very important formula. Select parent. By default, it added this thing. What this means, basically, when you click the button, it will select the row where you are, which is very important in order to make work the form here. If you remember, the form, notice that is selected and item property is getting the current item based on the selected item from the gallery. So how you tell the gallery which item is selected? Well, with this formula, select parent. In this context, parent is the full row where this icon is. So that ensures the item is selected. Next thing is add another formula. To execute multiple formulas, one after the other, or functions, sorry, you separate them with a semicolon. And then you type the other formula. In this case, navigate. And the screen we want is form screen. Let's take a look. Let's test this. I'm going to select another item. And you can see that the data has changed because it is another item. Okay, let's configure the closing event or exit event once the form has been submitted. After submitting the form, I'm going to add a navigate here. Just a small comment here. This is not the good, and this is not the best place to put a navigate. We need to do something else, but I'm going to tell you later what is the problem. Okay, so there it is, the navigate. Let's give it a test. Hit save. And it has returned it here. So it looks good. So good farm. So far so good. Okay, so now what if we want to open a new to create a new record, because this is just allowing us to modify existing record. Let's solve that problem. I'm going to add another icon here, this one here. And I want some label next to it. Take a look on what happened here. I'm going to add a background so you notice what's the problem with when overlapping controls like that. So can you see that this label is above the icon, and you can see how my cursor changes? So you need to be very careful about what icon or what control is above which, so you don't have problems like this. What I'm going to do is to move the icon above simply by clicking reorder, bring forward a position above the label. And if I click play, now I can see how it is solved. So now I can fix now this. Okay, so 1 second, please. Just need 1 minute, please, or 30 seconds to fix something here. Okay, I'm back. So I was explaining about the importance of to be careful with the position of your control so they don't overlap. Let's fix the background of this. We don't need to be that color. So, okay. And another thing is that, can you see that you cannot click this label? The pointer only changes when I hover the icon. And well, I could put an event here or add another button next to it. But let's see if we can find a more intelligent way to use the same icon for the click. So let me see if I can make this bigger like that. And now with the padding, I'm going to push this. Padding left. Let's see if we can push the icon. Yeah, we can do it. A little bit more. Excellent. And now, do you notice the pointer is changing when I hover it? The icon area is above label and the icon. A very simple trick to enhance the visual part. Okay, so let's put the event here. We know that we need to navigate to move to the other screen. So navigate form screen. But what else? We need to tell, hey, when you move to the other screen, set it in new mode instead of edit mode. Let's just use it as it is without any change so you can see the problem. Okay, so if I click here, it opens correctly. It just loads a record, the record that I have selected. Let's open another one. And it's there. Everything good, no problem. How about if I click here? It's just a navigate. Therefore, the form has not been reset or initialized in any different way. There is actually a formula called reset, but that's not the point. And I'm going to show you why. Let's go back here. What we want is to initialize the form in new mode. If I don't initialize the form in new mode and I only do a reset to put the fields empty, it's still going to have the previous selected, and therefore the operations we do are going to apply to that item. Also, if I do if I put a new event here, but I don't do a reset, we are going to have problems in both situations. Let's see first what happens if we do the reset without the initialization. So let's go here, and in the closing or the X mark, I'm going to put a reset. Reset form, event form. And let's put these two after the saving button, because this operation is also taking out of this screen. So let's open this one. You can see how it opens this this item, I close. In theory, it resetted the form, right? But if I click, I still see the same item because I have not told this thing to initialize in a different way. It's still thinking is in edit mode. Why? If you select this, you can see the default mode is edit. If you don't tell this otherwise, is still going to think is on edit mode. Okay, so how we change that situation? Here we put new form, and then the parameter is the form name. This will initialize the form in new mode. But as a recommendation, do this before the navigation, so you don't you avoid problems like blinking or, for example, you first navigate and then you see the form changing. The user will see the change. Maybe it will take a few milliseconds, but it's not a nice thing to see. Still, it might do the same even with this, but you reduce the chances of that happening or making that blinking shorter. So that's why I do the operations to change the controls first and then the navigate. But you will think, hey, how are you using a formula with a control that is on another screen? Well, it turns out that all the controls can be referenced from any screen. That's the reason you cannot have a control with the same name even though you are in a different screen. For example, here on screen 3, let's say that I want to add a new icon. You see, it takes the name icon 8. So let me try to put icon 7. It says this name is already being used. An important thing to consider when naming your controls and when working with formulas. All the functions you use, or sorry, all the controls you have in a screen, in a certain screen, can be referenced from any other screen. Okay, even initialization things or reset or things like that. So let's see what happens. Now you can see that it's empty. So let's put some data. This should create a new event in theory with the same saving operation, because the saving operation is just submit. It doesn't say create, update, it doesn't specify. It's just going to save whatever is here. If it is new or if it is existing item, it doesn't matter. It still is going to save. That's not the same situation with when you do it manually, when you create your forms from scratch. But fortunately, when you use the form control, it's that easy, just with the submit function. Let's add an event here like music event 2020. And the date is Thursday at 6. And then the same Thursday, but 10. This is going to be super special. Ticket price 100. And there it is at the bottom. This is making me think that we should also change the sort order for the events here, because it is sending the newest to the bottom, and I will prefer to see the newest at the top to so we can work easier. Also, I noticed the income label is in the wrong place. Can you see when I move my scroll? It looks that it's floating there. It's because it's on the wrong in the wrong scope. But I can solve that just by clicking on it, and then could select the row and then paste. Okay, problem solved. All right, so how we change the sort of the data? Well, there is a formula for that. First of all, you need to do it in the items property or the data source property, and then use sort by the source first, which is events, then comma, and modify it date. And then descending, the newest at the top. This should fix the problem. There we have it. Now the music event is at the top. Very easy. Let's take a look again. Sort by columns, the data source, in this case the SharePoint list called event, the name of the column, and then if it is ascending or descending. Okay, so let's do another thing. How about if I don't reset the form? Let's remove the formula from there and remove it from here too. Okay. It might not seem to be a problem when you do this and then click new. It looks that you are resetting the form, right? But imagine the following situation. And let's put something here, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. And then, oops, I don't want to continue. And then click new. Oh, what happened? I click new and the data is still there. Let's see that again. I click cancel. I don't want to continue. But then, hey, I want, let's create it again. So I click new, but the data from the previous time is still here. That's why the reset is important. It's not going to be that meaningful or useful for existing items because they have data that will override those values. For example, if I click here, okay, I forgot to mention something. Once we are modifying the form mode, we need to handle that in the other scenarios too. I need to tell this button to initialize the form in a different way. In the previous occasion, I didn't have to do that because by default, the form was in edit mode, but the mode has been modified by this button. So I need to do the same thing here. Okay, so let's do edit form, event form, close, and that's it. Let's execute, and there we go. Okay, so let's talk again about the reset. I'm going to repeat the problem. Adding some data here, blah, blah, blah. But then I say, hey, I don't want to continue, close. And then you open this again, the data is still there. But you open an existing item and the data is gone. Now is the real data of that item. Because the edit mode will refresh the data with the item that is selected. So the reset is not a problem for this, it's rather a problem for the new mode. But still is something very, very important to handle. So let's do the reset. Reset form. Yeah, form close. Here the same too. Reset. There it is. So that should solve the problem. Let's repeat the situation. Writing data here. X mark, new event, and now it's empty. So it's reset correctly. We can handle now the new mode, the edit mode, and refresh. There is a third mode that we have not seen yet, and is the read mode. How about if when you click this arrow, you want to open this on read mode before the edit mode? Okay, so it's very simple. We need to go here, and in this event, in this formula, what we need to do is, instead of initialize the form in edit form, we need to tell, hey, start as view form. Okay, so it sets the form in view mode. Doesn't look very good though, but you can change some of that format by editing the properties of the display. Still, I want to show you that I cannot click there. I cannot modify the data. It's not editable. Okay, so let's go back and open new. Another thing that I noticed is that for some reason it didn't keep the changes I did to the interface. So let's do that again. I'm going to save my changes. Okay, so what is the problem now? Apart that it doesn't look that good, I still see this button to submit changes, and I don't have a button to switch the mode to edit mode. So let's do this first. This button should not appear if this is in view mode. And how we can hide it? Well, here in the property visible, with this icon selected, I select the property visible, and here I'm going to put a validation, basically an if the form name, which is event form dot mode equals, and now I'm going to look for a system value, which is called form mode dot view. If the form is in view mode, I don't want to show this thing, so false. If it is not in view mode, then show it, so true. Right now it is not showing because the condition is not met. So let's take a look on that formula again. Where is the icon? Okay, there it is. You can see there is an if event form dot mode equals form mode dot view. Event form is the object here. The mode is a property. Form mode is a system value as you can see here, there are different options: edit, new, view, just to have something to compare to. And then we have the result. If this condition is true, then we do this. If this condition is false, then we do the following. And the thing that I use false and true here as the output values is because visible is expecting that. It's a Boolean property, is expecting either true or false. Okay, that solves the problem with the saving icon, but how about switching back to edit? Let's add a pencil. And similar to what we have seen, what I'm going to do now is initialize the form in edit mode. Edit form. Okay, two things not going good right now. First, the icon should not show anymore once you switch to edit mode. And second, we should see the save icon instead. So let's address one by one. First, the edit icon. Note that I'm having multiple icons here, even though I'm not going to reference these icons on the formulas. Instead, I'm going to write inside the formulas of these icons. It is going to be useful to have some names to recognize them when looking at the tree view. So this is going to be the edit icon. This is close icon. This one is save icon. Okay, so edit icon is basically the reverse. So I'm going to select the visible property and then put similar condition. If event form dot mode equals form mode, then true, show the pencil, otherwise don't show it, false. And for some reason the same button has appeared there already. Let's see if they are behaving nice now. I'm going to open any of these. No, having some problems. If view mode, this should be hiding. Why? Okay. It's not responding to the formula of the visible. Another problem that I notice is that when I change the name of this icon, it displayed again. So that tells me there is some issue with the style here, the cache. So I'm going to refresh the app. Okay, now it is working. Yep, it seems it was just a cache problem, which are very common, so be careful with that. Also, another thing that I noticed is that the styles for the form have changed too. The borders have disappeared and it is displaying in a different way now. Again, very common problems with the visual part, but things that you can address. So not a big deal. The thing is that it is behaving now good. It is doing the switch very, very nice. The final thing we need for this part is the we need to do some calculations in the form and delete the delete icon. Let's put the delete icon here. Trash. And before working on the formula for the actual removal, let's work on the visibility formula. And it will be something very, very similar. If the event form dot mode equals form mode dot edit. In this case, I'm going to look for edit only, not new, not view, because when it's new, it doesn't exist. So there is no sense to show the trash icon. Let's test it. Okay, no trash icon. And there it is. All right, and now let's work on the remove on select, where it is on select, and then remove what is the collection. The first parameter is the data source, in this case event. Which item? Well, the one that is selected. From where? From the gallery. Gallery events dot selected, and that's it. That's the only thing we need to do. Let's make a test. Okay, we also need an event to go back, but let's see if the event has gone. Yep. I'm going to delete now this one that says modified, but first let's fix the navigate issue. After the removal, I need a navigate. Okay, let's remove this one. And it's gone. All right. Almost there. So let's do some calculations in the form now. We have the CRUD operation already. We can create, we can read in view mode, we can update, and we can delete. But now it's time to do something a little bit more nicer. So let's put some calculations like multiply total price with total attendees. Let's rearrange this. I'm going to move up the attendees. There it is. So what calculation? Two things, the length and the income. I want to calculate both things. So how to do that? Well, there is many ways you can solve this. Again, you could put some data outside of the form here, like a floating label or something. But let's say you want to put this inside. What options you have? First, the data or the length of the meeting. So we know it is a formula with the start time and the end time. What we can do? Well, I can make this a little larger and put the total length below, right there. Or I can put another data card somewhere in the middle to put the calculated values. Let's see both options. First, the one by expanding the data card. So I'm just going to put a value here. In order to add more elements inside, I'm just going to unlock this data card and then add a label inside the data card. If you want to confirm that your label is in the correct position, you can take a look at the tree view and you can see the label is inside the data card as expected. So no problem at all. Let's zoom in a little bit. I want this label to be to the right. So let's change the alignment. Okay, that's good. And now let's copy the formula from the events screen. Is not showing any value because the dates are empty. It doesn't have anything to show yet. So let's display this just if this and this are not empty. How we do that? Okay, I'm going to use these boxes for a validation. So it will be good if I can rename these fields. So here you can see it's data value 1. Is not date value 1 is not a very good name. So let's rename that to start time date picker. And the other one, okay, so let's put an if here. If Okay, let's first put the parentheses so we can see piece by piece. In an if, we need a condition. Then what happens if the condition is true? For example, putting an empty text. What happens if the condition is not true? For example, putting another text. So what is the condition we want to evaluate? We want to ask if the values from above are empty. Okay, so let's do a formula called is blank, which is actually going to do that validation for us. Is blank, and all I have to do is put the control inside. So start time that the picker, not enough though. I need to choose selected date. And then or if any of these is blank, do something. So is blank and type date picker dot selected date. If any of those is blank, put nothing or a message saying like that. If they are not blank, then do the calculation. Okay, let's see what happens. But we need to do it here. Nope. Initialize new event. Okay, both dates are required. Let's put something here. And still it is comparing that they are empty or not good, but it is not using the correct values for the comparison, because the formula here is looking for the values in SharePoint, not the values in the form. So instead of that, I want to use the values in the form. So basically the ones above, start datetime picker, here start datetime picker, and the same for end date. Okay, and it says 24 hours. There is another problem. Let's say it is in the same day, but there is a few hours of difference. For example, 9 and here is 11. It's saying 0 hours. Why? Because the calculation is only taking in count the date, not this time. We need to go a little further then. So this is just going to be useful for one portion of the date, and we need the rest of the controls for the calculation. We are going to do that, but next time, because it's already a little bit late. So we are going to put this in a highlighted color, so we remember we need to finish this formula later. Okay, finally, I'm going to show you the other approach to add calculated values. This was by expanding a data card and putting things there. And the other approach is by adding a new data card. How you add new data cards? There is no there is no thing saying here add new data card. Normally what you do is add a new field. For example, this one category. Scroll down, there it is. And let's make this bigger. And I'll do the unlock and delete everything from inside. So let's see what things it has inside. There it is. Let's select everything and delete. Okay, it has a formula here that has a problem. Let's see what is the problem by clicking edit. It says it is going to is trying to update something to SharePoint, but I don't care about this value. And actually, the data card is display mode. Display mode is going to be display mode is view. So nothing is going to be modified on this data card. It's just for reading operations or actually calculations. Okay, now I have the new data card there. I can insert a label. This one is going to be more easy than the dates. Also, I'm going to copy the formula from the gallery, the income, and also align this to the left. But again, there is a small problem here. We want the values from the text boxes, not the values from SharePoint. So let's rename those text boxes. This one is ticket price. Text input. The other one, total, then this text. All right, now I can use them in my formula. Ticket price text input dot text, and then total, then this text input dot text. Notice that different controls have different properties to extract the values. The text input requires the property .text to extract the value. And in the case of the date, you need to use a property selected date. So be careful when working with different controls. Don't assume the same property will be present in another type of control. Okay, there is a very important here, and a very important thing here. We know these values are text, that's for sure. If we click here, we can see in the format that says number. This one too says number. And we know these are numeric values in SharePoint. But in other situations could be that that those fields are not restricted, or anything can happen. So it is very good to take an extra measure by converting this text into a numeric value. And the way you do that is by putting value formula like this. in case that conversion fails, you could do another thing to handle the error. In this scenario, it is not likely to have a problem because the field itself is already restricted. It says number, so that is a way to prevent the error. But in case you find this useful, the value conversion and the value function works to convert a text into a number. Okay, so let's hit run. And there it is. It's doing the calculation. But there is a similar problem. If it is empty, this should not, it should display nothing. So it will be a very similar formula like this. Actually, I'm just going to literally copy this part so we can go faster. And let's make this bigger. Okay, let's copy this thing. Oops, copy and paste it above. Copy this thing and paste it above. Then, comma, the output is nothing. If any of this is blank, I don't want anything to show here. If it's not blank, then I want this thing to happen. And then the parenthesis to close the if. Let's see if this works. There it is. Very nice. All right. Why an approach like this to add a data card below or in a position like this is useful instead of or inserting the values inside here instead of putting the floating value here? Well, imagine you want to take advantage of the increase the size growth of the form and just display the values when you scroll to a certain position of the form. So putting that inside the form makes more sense. There is also situations where you could put the calculation values outside, but knowing how to do it inside the form is also very handy. Next time, we are going to see how to finish this calculation of the time. But for now, it's good enough. Sorry, I forgot something. We also need to talk about why doing the navigation and this reset here just after the click of the saving button is not a good idea. Okay, publish. Okay, can you tell me what you think about the things we covered today? Is it confusing? What is the most difficult part you found today? And if not, what potential usage you see for this? What applications on real scenarios? Let's start with Emmanuel.
Okay, well, this is very interesting. I would say the most not difficult, but you need to take more attention or pay attention is in the use of the forms mode, just to display use the better way to display the data.
Mm-hmm. You mean like when it looks ugly or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it's not very nice, but um, especially with complex values like this, the start time and date, and also the cache problems that we have, but that's more a browser thing. Uh, but yes, that is true. Another thing,
No, not today.
okay, use case for this.
Well, in this apply for almost every application that needs to input data for because the forms will are requiring almost every application, right? So I would say this is like the basics for any application.
Okay, thank you very much. And now let's move with Mukesh.
Yes, today's session was very knowledgeable and no confusion point. I have one query only. Can you add a HTML part here and more interactive with user perspective?
More intuitive, what, sorry?
Can we add HTML like we have to more interactive forms or view form, edit form, new forms, uh, or make it responsive?
Well, it has its own styling, and as said before, there is more flexibility when you go piece by piece, like with this experiment we were doing here. If you add field by field, you have more control about how it looks, and it has some properties that you can manipulate, like the size, the background, the font, and some basic things. Not everything that is possible on HTML is possible with these controls, but pretty much. Uh, and additionally, you can insert HTML like this in with this control. The problem is this is not a form. It's more like read-only data. There are some people that have created some components to insert in Power App that executes JavaScript. I have not tested them, but even with that, I cannot assure such code can work with the input from controls like this. So let's say that from a basic perspective, we are restricted to the styles we have here in the properties panel, or the values that we can set here with formulas. Because, for example, in terms of the color or the size of other things like that, you could change that with formulas to make this conditional, or put a different color depending on what's going on with the other values. Also, by using the overlap of elements approach, similar to what I showed you with this trick here, you can also solve many problems with the styles, like I don't know, like putting some fancy buttons with transparency, or even GIF animations or other things like that. So is you can achieve a lot with these power apps, even if you don't have like a CSS style sheet to manipulate, or a JavaScript code. And if you want to notice the kind of stuff that you can achieve with Power Apps, just look at the games that people have built in Power Apps. Uh, don't remember the name of this person. but it should be, what's the name? Games. Yeah, Mr. Tang. He shows very good samples about the craziest things that you can do with Power Apps. Maybe not most of them not common or things that you could offer to a customer, but it helps to expand or open the mind in what is possible. For example, I like this video a lot, and I'm going to put the URL here in the chat. Okay, I put both links, the channel and the link to the video. I'm just going to show a very few samples. Here, this is a game of coloring things, and let's move on. This is a game of I don't know what this is. It's some circles that are moving, and this is like Mario Bros. A platformer, or I don't know how to spell that genre of games.
Is it also possible in Power?
Yeah, so it's very flexible, and the one that I found most incredible is another. This is just a Snake classic game, but and this is like the Nintendo game where you shoot the ducks. Very classic game. That's not the one that I'm looking for. This is the one. It's like an RPG game with another game inside. So it's moving the character here, and now it's going to get inside this building and open a mini game inside the game. So let's see what is going to happen. It's a 3D game with a plane that moves there, very crazy and difficult to imagine how they achieve that. But I guess it's not that crazy if you think about Excel, because these formulas are very similar to the Excel formulas. And some years ago, before this technology, when I was on the school, I saw some people creating games with pure Excel formulas. So if it was possible back then with Excel, it makes sense that it's possible now with Power Apps that is more powerful than Excel. It's just about finding those small things and put them together. Eventually, when you learn about the different formulas that you can use in Power App, you will see that this is not that crazy. Maybe not something that you would like to spend your time building, if not going to get some profit from it, but it still is interesting to know about this. Not recommended to do things like this because you cannot sell these games or publish them in an app store or something like that. It's not going to work for that. So that's the reason I don't think it's very useful to try to to find a commercial usage in things like this, but very good as mind openers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now let's go with Juan Perez, please.
Hey, Zach. Um, I see this very useful, really, really easy the way it handles the operations to edit the forms and send the data back to the data source. And yeah, I can remember three of the functions you show us uh, to edit and to display this the data in different formats just for edition or to insert or even remove. So I was just wondering if this approach works for the same works the same way for all the data source. I mean, I see you are using right now SharePoint data source, right? But I'm wondering if, for example, we have something like SQL Server or other data source, it is still working the same way. I mean, we can still save in the data the same way using the same functions.
Okay, yes, because the functions are not related with the data source. For example, you can see here the submit function is about the form control. It doesn't matter what fields it has inside, it's still going to do its operation. Similar, reset, edit, new view, etc. The thing that could be important to validate though is the automatic generation of these data cards. Uh, we know that, for example, in SharePoint, you have text fields. And when you add them to a form like this, you get a text input. You also have date and time values in SharePoint. And when you add the data card to the form, you get controls like this. So the form control is capable of understanding what is the data type and then give you the proper control to modify that data. Similarly, in SQL, because it's a Microsoft technology, Power App is very capable of understanding the data types of each column. If it is a text, or if it is a numeric value, if it is some other things, might be a little bit different with complex things. Because I know in databases you sometimes have multiple data types for the time. It's not just one type, and maybe scenarios like the bar chart where you can set some limits to the size of the column and other things like that. Uh, but I think those are small details that you could solve once you are facing them. But in the basic functionality, it should recognize the type and give you the proper control. You just need to take a few extra steps to ensure you don't collide with any of those rules, like preventing that the text box has more than 20 characters or 30 characters, if that is something that you have set in the SQL.
Got it. Yeah, it's really good to know that. I think that a scenario to build something with this is, I was just thinking about something like an point of sale maybe, or maybe an inventory application when you sometimes you don't. I mean, it's something that you need to create in MVC maybe or another web platform. But you can really make it easy with these applications. You just need to update some of the values on the table, the records. If you have an inventory, as I said, maybe you can you just need to update the quantity of some items. So this is really helpful to build something really quick. Yeah, it also helps you to update maybe your items on your inventory, delete, update, or even add some new items. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about as some use cases of or some scenario to apply this tool.
Yes, and actually there is a trending of people moving to this technology because that easy, those things that are simpler here and faster. A lot of things like that, like a application for a store or for sales department or for even for the healthcare, and maybe to schedule appointments or um, record expenses, take pictures to the tickets, vacation requests, and other things that in the past you have to ask for an application built with HTML and JavaScript and some server-side language like C# or Visual Basic or other things like that. And now it's simplified with this. Of course, with an application that you build with those languages, you had more control about all the things you can do, but it's not sometimes about what you can get in terms of possibilities. It's what you can get realistically speaking with the time that you have, the budget that you have, and is in that area where this tool wins the match, because with very short time and a small budget you can get applications that do a lot, and that's why this is getting more popular.
Yeah, also I was thinking just another comment. I was thinking about sometimes the companies request like expense report, and they are building in Excel. They are still using Excel as a data source or database, even a database. So I'm thinking just like an application you can still use in your report in Excel, but at the time you are reporting the expense or just capturing something, you are not opening your Excel file in your cell phone. You can use an application made with Power Apps maybe, and you can just start typing your expenses there, and very friendly, I guess, because it includes the controls, everything needed just to save the records on any data source. But I'm just thinking about Excel this time.
And actually, for a scenario like that, it could be solved with this quick approach where you auto-generate the app from an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. And it's very, very fast. You need 30 minutes and you are finished. Maybe the only thing you are going to spend more time is adding the control that will take the picture, but the other functionality is already there, and it's going to be very, very useful in those scenarios. Okay, let's finish with Franklin, please.
Well, I think that is a powerful tool. Right now I am using this tool to modify the SharePoint interface, SharePoint forms. I think it's really easy to do it with Power Apps.
Okay. Do you see or do you remember a use case for using forms like this?
Yes, but only for simple things because I don't know too much about Power Apps. but with your help, I think that more things are possible.
Okay. I think it's a good time to end today, and we are going to continue this topic later. We are not going to start right away with Power Automate next time. We first need to finish a couple of things here, like I told you, this formula and the situation with the position of that function, and then I want to show you how to handle attachments. With that, once we do the attachment part, we are going to move to Power Automate and do some nice things there, and later go back to Power Apps to do more advanced things. For example, building a form from scratch. I want to show you the operations that are required to get data from SharePoint, put it on specific controls, and how to handle the save and the update or create operations, because it's not the same like or it's not as simple as a submit function like this. It's going to be a little bit different. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day or night, depending where you are. See you until next time.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you, Isaac. Bye-bye.